Well, joining me now on the line to discuss the recent economic developments in Zambia is Isaac Ngoma, who's the president of Economics Association of Zambia. Isaac, thank you so much for your time. I think if one thinks about the economy in Zambia, the depreciation of the kwacha comes to mind and the measures that have been put in place. Has this worked?
Thank you. I would like to say good afternoon to all the listeners. Well, Zambia seems to be experiencing some turbulent times with its currency, the kwacha, which has depreciated significantly over the last period of time. And the key reason for all this is because we seem to have had challenges with having sufficient reserves for us to be able to, first and foremost, ensure that we are able to cushion the kwacha as and when need arises, because we are so import dependent. And hello?
I'm still here, Isaac. I do hear you when you're talking about the use of those forex reserves that has been used in order to stop the depreciation of the kwacha. But how sustainable is this move?
It's not sustainable. This is the biggest challenge that we have, because we seem to be generating very little in terms of foreign exchange, because we are very import dependent. As I was saying, we are importing far too much and realizing very little from our export earnings. And this mismatch has created this differential status, which has constrained our ability to even maintain credible foreign currency reserves. So the problem that we've seen in the recent past is that the kwacha has failed to hold on to a level that is appreciable in the market against the major currencies, particularly the US dollar. And this depreciation has actually had a very compounding effect on a number of factors. We're seeing inflation going up because the prices of goods and services have skyrocketed. Since we are very import dependent and our manufacturing base is very weak. So much of what we consume as a country is imported.
Isaac, one of the other measures that has been put into place is the policy stance in terms of increasing interest rates. But although this may be used as a measure to stop the depreciation, it also has an adverse effect, especially if you look at the ability for banks to lend.
Yes, that has been a challenge. Because banks now see it more opportune to lend to government, who have had, great appetite for borrowing by issuing government instruments. So what we are seeing is that banks are investing more in treasury bills and other government securities at the expense of the private sector, who are being crowded out. And this trend has got its own disadvantages. First and foremost, we are working towards growing the private sector and create employment and wealth for the people and mitigate against the high levels of poverty. But what government is doing is actually, negating all the efforts that they have been working on towards job creation, and creating wealth for the nation so that we can, offset the effects of poverty.
Now, speaking about what the government's been doing, what's also been a matter of urgency is looking at the current budget deficit. That has been looked at as a matter of urgency. I mean, what's the way forward? What suggestions could you possibly make in order to have the situation contained?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. To start with, government has to ensure that there's fiscal discipline. And going by what has been seen so far, that is something that they have to manage properly and contain, because we've seen government, rolling out huge infrastructure projects. They have increased the public service wage bill through the increment of, wages for public service workers. They have created new districts and an additional province. All these call for huge financing. But the ability for government to mobilize, sufficient revenue within the domestic economy is also constrained. We haven't escalated our inflows into the treasury, and this is against, an ever-increasing public, bill. So what we have is a mismatch that has just escalated the deficit. But I think it's also much more to do with the policy environment. It's the policies that government has pursued. There are other things that had been at play also that had a bearing on investor confidence, and as such, that also negated the prospects of raising sufficient revenue, and also had a bearing on the issue that we had talked about earlier, about the foreign exchange situation.
Isaac, thank you so much for your insight.
Effect on the currency. Yeah.
Isaac, thank you so much for your insight with regards to what's been going on in Zambia and the economic factors that are playing in. That was Isaac Ngoma, who's the president of the Economics Association of Zambia.